Calling the meeting to order. If you'll all stand and join me in Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Janice, you call the roll call.
Here.
Here.
Here. Here.
Here. And can we get an approval of the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda.
I'll second it.
It's first and second. All in favor?
Aye.
No opposed? We do not have any presentations or announcements, so we will go to the public comment. Anybody have any public comment for this evening?
Yeah, I'd like to know if anybody's gonna pull on a consent calendar about North Royal Sewer. If they aren't, I'd like to say something now. I believe the guy had done a real good job, and he's pointed out some stuff that wouldn't have been fixed if people would have trouble a year later, and the city would have said it's their line. I'd just like to thank you, man, for pointing it out. And I would like to know how come it's under city manager's report, the violation is set a public, and the public can speak about it. I can't speak at manager's report.
Are you, the wastewater?
What I have is a meeting set up with ARSA and the golf course, and once I have all that, then we will be into a discussion. I just wanted to let the council know that that meeting was set up.
And then we'll put it on the agenda.
Okay, thank you.
Hank DeVore, West Marlette. I went out to a dinner at the Big Hall a week or so back. That parking lot hasn't been painted. Don't ask me why. It's been 2 months of, I don't know who's responsible, it's been 2 months that nice and dry can do it. And believe me, when it gets completely out, it takes some time to line those babies out. Maybe I'm behind the 8 ball, but somebody's fallen back on that. I don't know who's responsible, but it definitely should have been done already. We might wait till another week or two and we might get rain. Thank you.
I hope we do.
I brought that up to Angie at Parks, and we're working on that, because I'm afraid if it goes away, we're gonna get a $10,000 bill for some engineer to redesign it, or you can still take a roller, maybe get the Boy Scouts down there.
That's right.
Any further public comment?
Chris Strong, I live on West Marlette, and I actually have a consulting firm do the groundwater sampling. And I also have a local business for landscaping. I have a C27, and I've been interested, and I've got a worker also familiar with the job right there off of Castle Oaks, right off of 104, and that island that leads in. If I've heard that bid ran out. So if that's going out for bid, or if there's a way to, I think I could save the city probably some money off that, which might be helpful, and with some capable workers.
We will more than likely be looking for our proposals, responses to RFPs for that contract, so.
Look for a public notice on that then? Okay. Thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Because I believe his partner's been coming down there for almost 2 years trying to see if they can do something.
Yeah, they got a 3-year contract. I think it's up, isn't it? Getting to be.
It was up
Coming
like
up quick.
4 months ago, wasn't it?
But again, you still have a performance evaluation. There's the option to extend that contract, so
Right.
you do your performance evaluation first.
Right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any further public comment? Seeing none, I'll close public comment. Move on to the consent calendar. Is there anything anybody wants pulled on the consent calendar? I will entertain a motion.
I move we accept the consent calendar.
I'll second.
First and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. No opposed? No public hearing today, so on to the regular agenda. Item number 3, ad hoc committee for property tax split discussion with the county.
Yes, Madam Mayor, Council. What you have before you is a request to select 2 members to be a part of an ad hoc committee to discuss different percentage property tax split with the county. As you recall at the last meeting, the 5 counties, the 5 cities in Amador receive only 4.6% of the property taxes collected in the county, while the county receives 31% of the property taxes. The 4.6% is then split amongst the 5 communities. As Ione moves towards the future, Castle Oaks Village 6, 8, 9, 10, Village, Wildflower Villages 1, 2, and 3, and 5, and Gold Village will be developed. In our general plan in the sphere of influence, there's approximately 2,600 acres that can be developed at some point in time, which would include 3,928 residential dwelling units and 17,720,000 square feet of commercial industrial properties. Now's the time to start having discussions with the county to do a different split on the new properties than what we currently get. As we continue to grow as a community, the property taxes that we get primarily from residential do not cover the costs of providing services. So other communities have started to have conversations with their county. Yuba City is one that I'm familiar with that has just recently started having discussions with their county. I know the city of Elk Grove has also had conversations with the county and has gotten some tax splits, and that's been a while. As you can see, in terms of what's projected in the general plan and growth, and I don't know if that's going to be 5 years or 25 years down the road. But now is the time to begin that conversation with the county. I did have a conversation with Chuck Eiley, the county administrator, on Friday. He is receptive to the idea of having the conversation. Once the council selects 2 people for the ad hoc committee, what I'll do is send Chuck a letter identifying who the committee members are. He'll put that on the agenda, and the county will select 2 people to serve on the ad hoc, to represent their side of the ad hoc committee, and then we can begin conversations. Some of the communities that have done this, like in terms of Yuba City, I mean, they're kind of looking at, trying to get it 5% instead of the 1 point, whatever percentage that we're getting now in terms of the new growth. And then I did throw that number out to Mr. Eiley as, this is what we would like to see. He didn't seem shocked by that number, and he was definitely willing to talk about it. So I think there's an opportunity for us to renegotiate.
John, what incentive does the county have to negotiate? Well, I mean,
Goodwill.
they really don't. But again, if you look at it from, the county isn't supposed to quote profit from it. So if we can start examining what their costs are per residential versus what our costs are per residential, I think we get to the point of what's fair.
okay.
Like I said, some of the leverage is just having out in the public discourse. I mean, people don't understand that, how much goes to the school district and how much goes to, how much we get, how much we're paying versus what we're actually taking back. And then people ask why we have all these problems. It's like, well, because we don't have money to fix them. That's part of the problem.
Well, I know I was shocked when I found out.
Yeah, I know. I think it was at 62% goes to school district, and then we basically get whatever's left. That's kind of I'm not sure what the numbers actually dial in at, but it's somewhere in that neighborhood.
Well, and 31% is one of the highest rates in the state. I mean, we're sitting, most of them running between 20 and 28. 31 is, for a county of this size, that's a lot of money going to the county. Especially since we have all of our own services.
Well, and Ione is growing. I mean, we're the days of us being the bottom are kind of gone away. We're actually grown enough to now we actually have real influence here, and I think that's important to note. It's important that we're able to take care of our citizens appropriately.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think, got a new audience here tonight, so you can take this home and tell all your friends. So, You're lucky most of you are too young to be paying property tax right now. But somebody in your family probably is. And so when you say, well, how come the sports fields aren't that great, or the parks aren't that great, or the sidewalks aren't that great, I'm paying my property taxes, I'm paying thousands of dollars a year in property taxes, but most people don't know that doesn't come to the city of Ione. We get about $300 or $400. The rest of it, 62% goes to the school, 32% goes to the county. And then the rest of the cities and the special districts splits about 6%. It's really not fair that, you know, the county is, in my opinion, getting free money from the cities. I mean, we are paying for our police department, and we're paying for the sheriff's department. We're paying for, you know, John Hankin, we're paying for the CEO of the county. Now, if you live in the county, they don't contribute to any of the city services at all, but we're contributing to the city services and the county services. And the average in California is 12% to the cities. If you take I think it's a Board of Equalization's average is 12%. So I'm pretty sure the county will be happy with 5. I'm not surprised about that. But I'd like to see it get at least to the average. I mean, I'd like to see it. What needs to happen is there needs to be like a municipal service review. So the county, because they provide some services, obviously they have things like mental health, they have the DA's office, they have the assessor's office, they have things like that, that yes, we need to contribute to that. But do we need to contribute 32%? You know, and that's basically a fact-finding mission. You know, maybe it is that high, but it sure seems unfair. I mean, you know, we're the ones down in Ione that are building all the new housing, and you would think that, oh, we're going to be flush with property tax and we could start making improvements to the city, but when it all goes outside, it's really hard. So whatever public support we can get on this, I know we're going to need it, because I know the county doesn't want to give up any money. And the question was asked is, you know, what incentive do they have? And they really, other than doing the right thing, voting out the supervisors, they don't legally, you know, have to do this. So there's no legal requirement for them to do it. But I'd like to be on that committee if I could, on the ad hoc.
All right, we have one volunteer. Any other volunteers? Nobody's looking at me.
I volunteer the mayor if nobody else wants it.
So yes, the mayor will take the other seat. Okay. Public comment? Do we have any public comment?
I'm sorry, John, I might have missed that and or you're asking to increase it from the 4% or whatever to 5, split amongst the cities, what was the 5%?
Just the city of Ione, I'm not
Just the
representing any of the other cities.
That sounds great. So, so can you make it in real layman's terms on a dollar? How much cents does the city of Ione get to keep now?
Now,
Per dollar, it's about 1.3 cents.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that I did understand what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
So for every dollar, 1 cent goes to Ione. So I got some information from the chair last time you were discussing this, and it had 2015-16 figures on it. Did you guys have the current one? Because I have the one right here for 1920. You have that 1920? I called the office today.
I have
Took a little bit of-
15-16.
Well, I can give you current if you'd like to have the current one. It has gone up a wee bit. But, you know, we're still not.
Thanks.
I didn't know for sure what y'all would have in your packets.
Thank you.
That's just information for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you, Lori. Any further public comment? Seeing none, I'll close public comment. Any further council discussion?
I'll make a motion that we appoint Dominic and Mayor Radden as our ad hoc committee.
I'll second that.
We have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
No opposed? Moving on. Water on sidewalk on Shakely Lane.
Yes, Madam Mayor, Council. At our last council meeting, photographs were brought to us related to water running over the sidewalk at 1045 Shakely Lane. This has been a issue for a while, even on Google Earth. When you look at the satellite and you start blowing it up, you can see water running across the sidewalks. That satellite picture was a little bit old because there are houses around there that haven't been built yet. One of the things we're pretty sure of is this is spring water. There isn't a water leak, anything that's occurring there. This is just being forced out of the ground and is running across the sidewalk and into the street. The Wildflower subdivision has a similar issue. And back when they designed it, you can see on the photographs after the one with the sidewalks, is they put in some drainage possibilities in terms of addressing that issue. And I'm talking to John, we think that, some, the drainage and the sidewalks can be put in for approximately $500 too. I mean, it's just a matter of saw cutting, putting in the system to allow the water to go through and putting some sort of grate over the top of it. There are different types that are available. Like I said, this is the one, the photographs you see. This is what was done in Wildflower. There's a number of them throughout the subdivision there. So that's what we're kind of recommending in terms of the solution to this issue. We haven't reached out to the property owner as yet, but we'll be doing that in the next couple of days to kind of talk about this issue. But like I said, in terms of a fix, that seems to be the most practical solution.
For the council's aware and staff as well, there, the Pocket neighborhood off 124 by the dentist office over there, that little circle neighborhood back in there, they've had water back in there ever since I can remember. They brought it to our attention, it's been a few years, but there's a spring that comes up from behind the fire station on that hillside that runs to that little neighborhood too. Just another place to look, and add it to your list.
And again, that's part of in terms of our design standards, the drainage system needs to be something that we need to look at in terms of incorporating, because a lot of times if you have flat face curbs, you'll have weep holes, drainage holes that will allow stormwater to run underneath the sidewalk. In terms of the road curbs, there are no weep holes, and that creates somewhat of a problem.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I guess the plan going forward would be to come up with a design standard and then go through and assess the whole town, I guess, look for places and then prioritize. And
we'd look where it's happening, but again, in new subdivisions, that's one of the things that we'd want to look at, is to make sure that they're putting in the drains and the sidewalks.
And then the existing ones, what's the plan there? Fund it and then do it, or what?
Well, and that's like I said, we're going to have to identify them and then move forward. This is what you see here is just kind of the solution that we're talking.
It's maybe a little far beyond, but do we need the road tax would cover some of that? I would expect, because it's part of the roadway system. I would assume, or should I assume that?
I wouldn't necessarily assume that.
Okay, I just thought it's one thought.
But what I would say, the stormwater utility fee in terms of dealing with this would be a mechanism to help cover that.
But we don't have that currently.
No, but again, as we start putting the discussion as to how we deal with stormwater, because it is going to be an issue that we are going to have to deal with more and more.
Right. In our present situation, then, we are looking at using general funds for these, to make these kinds of repairs on the ones we are aware of?
Haven't got to that point yet in terms of, like I said, I want to have a talk with the property owner related to somewhat of a cost split, because technically the water that's seeping out belongs to the property owner.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I think for $500, it's a cheap fix before somebody gets injured and sues the property owner and the city.
I went out and looked at that, and it's really slick, really slick.
It's been leaking since the house. I never noticed the leak there until the house was built. I thought it was a water leak, because that was just, it was graded long before they built the houses, and there was no water running across that road, but
My understanding in talking to, back when the Preston Farm was there, that there were springs on the property that were flowing in. And Kenny, Mackey, excuse me, he was going, yeah, that's kind of one of the areas where he was familiar with, where there were springs, so, like I said, and we tested the water for any chlorine residual, and there was none, so, like I said, we don't believe it's a pipe at all, it's just groundwater coming to the surface.
if the meter's not spinning around, then it's,
Yeah, you probably ask AW, they'd probably tell you if you have a leak or not.
Yeah.
They usually do.
I'm glad that that's that cheap. I'm actually surprised, so that's good. And I'm also glad they're kind of ignoring the ordinance where the citizens are liable for the sidewalks.
Yeah.
This is one of those things that's absolutely ludicrous to make the landowner, so I'm glad the city's taking care of it.
Well, but again, you go back to the water is coming from the property owner, they're the ones causing it. This is a reasonable solution to the problem.
Yeah, but the city's taking care of it. We're not making the landowner.
Well, we're going to look to them to assist in this. It's their water. So it's not the city's water, and it's not the
They're
city's.
gonna make the landowner pay for this?
No, I said they were gonna be looking at a split to this.
Right, we're going to look for them to assist. We're not looking to them to pay for it, but it is their water. It is partly their responsibility to keep you're not allowed to put your water off on other people's
Well, I
property.
think you put your sidewalk where their water was.
Well,
There may be some ordinance that has to do with, I mean, I know you're
That's an
allowed.
engineering flaw.
You're allowed.
Right, council?
Maybe. I know you're allowed to shoot water on your neighbor's property if it goes with the natural slope of the ground. There's some rules about that, but I don't know that, I think this would have to kind of, would there be any developer money, or would that be something we have to put in place with the developer agreement, or how's that gonna? Because I think they should fund it. I mean, if you're gonna buy a house, it should be
For
done.
the future, or?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be something that we'd be looking at, again, in terms of design standards. So that when we start looking at drainage issues in terms of the planning and all that, we want to look at where sidewalk drains need to occur. Or, another solution would be very simply to get rid of the rolled curbs. In other communities where you have flat-faced curbs, there's usually 2 weep holes per property. Depending upon how the house was laid out, and the storm drain connects to one of them. And the other one is there in the event you have other things that you want to drain to. But like I said, with a rolled curb, you don't have the weep holes.
Another good reason to get rid of road curbs. Hate them.
I think it's an engineering flaw from the beginning, because when you install sidewalks, within 2 seconds when you build them, that's gonna happen, so that's.
Well, it should be something too, when you go to buy a house, usually there's a disclosure, and that should be something we disclose if you had a proper inspection, I would think. I would think.
I mean, in an ideal world, yeah, the developer, when he put the sidewalks in, would have put these in. I don't know if it was leaking at that point, but really, it's really the sidewalk builders.
And some are seasonal and some are just nonstop. The one over here in the neighborhood, it will leak, put out 5 gallons every couple hours for no matter how dry it is.
There's your source for water, Dominic.
Hey, there you go.
Yeah.
All right, very good, thank you.
any further council discussion? Public comment?
The city okayed the design of this development. They should have known it. They should have done some research. That's their job. How can you dump it on a landowner when you guys designed this whole operation? The city did it, not the landowner. They should have done some research. Sorry about that.
Any further public comment? Having none, I'll close public comment. So this is just a discussion item, we're not
Yeah,
making
you
any
don't need,
further
you
at
don't
this
need
point?
to
Okay.
do anything.
So the path forward is basically to assess situation, develop design standards, and then make a path forward to get it fixed.
Talk to the property owner about this particular issue and the other property owners too, and like I said, work out a solution.
Definitely, all right, thank you.
Agenda item number 5, replace floating brush aerators in wastewater plant.
Yes, Madam Mayor, Council, what you have before you is a request to purchase a floating brush aerator at the wastewater treatment plant to replace a unit that is worn out. Purchase price of the unit is $29,932.74. This includes tax and freight. Currently, city utilizes 5 ECS house industries floating brush aerators at the wastewater plant. 4 of them were purchased and installed sometime before 2004, and the last one, in terms of the records we can find, was purchased and installed in 2004. Again, one of the units is not working and needs to be replaced, and staff is recommending that the city purchase another ECS housing industries floating brush aerator in the amount of $29,932.74. And you have the specifications with the staff report.
The other units how were they at with their life expectancy? Do we know that at all? Or is that
Right now, they're still working like that, so we've gotten great longevity out of these.
We have this already in the budget, I believe, for repairs.
There's about budgeted for repairs. I don't know if this specific line item or this specific product was listed in there.
I'm very familiar with these as I've removed them and installed them a couple of years back, and there was one that was been broke for years, and we pulled it out, and I was requesting they fix it before we threw it back in, which they did, but I'll get to that in a sec. But with that said, these machines are fairly simple. And as you most know, I do this for a living, so I took the specs and just said the whole thing's completely destroyed. So all the moving parts on it. If the motor's blown out, that's $600. If the coupler's broke, that's $150. The gearbox is the most expensive part at $1,500. The main bearing's $200. It'd take me about 8 hours to do it. I'd charge you $150 an hour, and I'd rebuild it for $3,650. I can't do it because I'm on council, but I would highly suggest you find someone that knows how to work on these. PERC has no clue how to work on these. And the reason I say that is the one that was pulled out, it had a shaft snap in it because the bearings aren't being maintained. And so I requested to ICM, which was the project manager at the time, I said, I'm the superintendent on the job. I'm just sitting here doing paperwork. I'll rebuild that for the city for free. They had the parts. And he said, well, that's a kind offer. So he talked to, I don't know who it was, but PERC came back and said, no way, we're fixing it. So I knew those two guys very well that came to work on it. And the first thing they did is they got around it and they couldn't figure out, they'd never worked on one. So anyhow, I said, here's kind of how you do it, and they didn't have tools. So I said, well, you can use my tools, my truck's there. They made a phone call, nope, can't use Stacy's tools, we'll buy all new tools. I could rebuild that thing in 8 hours, the whole thing. That shaft took them 4 days to repair. When we went to put it back in, I said, before we stick it back in, let's test run it, because it don't look right. It don't look like they lined it up, turned it on, and the thing broke in half. So I highly suggest we get a second opinion of some other company to come in and look at the thing. It's absolutely ridiculous to spend $30,000 on something when we can rebuild it for $3,600. And the thing could be 100 years old. All it is a piece of stainless steel that floats out there with a motor on it that throws water in there. It's not complicated. Rebuilding a bicycle is harder, trust me. And Dominic's a mechanic. I suggest you go out there and look and see what I'm saying.
I agree. I think, I think we should table this and look at finding a company other than Stacy Inc. that can,
Rhodes Inc.
Rhodes Inc.
I'll give you a list of local guys that are more than capable of work on them, but I don't know if that's good coming from me, but.
Well, I mean, maybe give it to the city manager, I just recommend at this point, tabling this item and looking to see if we can get it repaired by someone with the right expertise.
I mean, the only thing I could see that would be a little different perspective would be that if this particular item is a lot more efficient than the one we have currently, which
The same thing,
I
the
know.
same motor.
I know that's my point. I mean, but if it's more efficient, it's going to save us money because a lot of times it's the
7.5 horsepower.
It's like a light bulb.
7.5 horsepower.
right, like one light bulb is, it's really low cost to run. Other ones just drain the internet.
But it's the same.
It's just I get it's very simple. It's not complicated. I understand. So I voiced that point.
This hasn't been working for quite some time, I assume.
That I don't know.
And there is no timeline in which we have to have this back working we can take the ones that we have out, put them in and rotate them through the ponds so that we're not leaving one without?
Well, like I said, I mean, we have the ones that are working. If you want to table this, we can do that.
Okay.
The other question I have too is, I don't know, Stacy, you're familiar, I guess, John. Does the new one we're looking at, is it going to do moving more water more efficiently, or do we know on that? Is it the same
It's the
thing?
same.
Yeah, they're pretty much the same. I mean, these units have been around for
Many years, yeah.
many years. I mean, it just,
I wasn't sure if it was gonna move more water faster, or if it's just the same thing, more of the same.
Same thing.
Because I was looking at some of the specs on it, I mean, it shows how much water it pushes out. 'Cause I know one of the problems we had in the, I think it's pond 7, pond 5, was that it was the anoxic zone. It had a bunch of sediment on the bottom, and the oxygen was not making it deep enough.
Well, those ponds don't have aerators in them.
Correct, that's
Why?
right, but it's the same problem over there if we don't have it properly aerated. That's what I'm
Correct.
getting at, I guess. So I don't know if this moves more water, if it's just a more efficient design, or like you say, we can rebuild the other one. I mean, like I said, there's not a lot of efficiency to be gained. I would assume it's a pretty simple project.
Doesn't this company that sells them rebuild them?
I would imagine they
You
do.
would think they would, right?
Or at least recommend somebody
Someone.
who does?
I mean, yeah.
And is it an item that should have went out to bid anyhow? Isn't that, or is that under that $50,000 mark, or it don't matter because they're a contractor?
but again, we look at this is this is just a direct replacement of something that we already have.
I thought if it was over a certain amount, let's say it was $1 million, you'd put it out for bid, I would think. But I don't, what was that number? There was a number that we just voted on it, right?
It was 50, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Was it 50?
50.
Okay.
I'm fine with tabling it. Yeah.
I think that we ought to look into the repair as well.
Okay.
I would, while we're doing that, let's take some bids on the replacement as well. Maybe we can get it replaced cheaper than 29, but fixing would be cheaper.
And if they the main, what happens to them, just so you all know, there's a bearing on the end of this thing, and they are not maintaining them properly. When that bearing wears out, it drops, and the whole shaft goes like that, and the shaft snaps on this end. That's all that happens to them.
But you know what?
You got the motor on one end, the bearing on the other.
Correct, and it's back from me to Diane, so you got all this weight hanging out there, and they're not lubricating those bearings correctly, and it just falls out and then snaps.
And John, do we know what the actual problem with the aerators itself is, the motor? Do we know what the actual?
No, I haven't. I can find out, but no, I haven't.
If you could find out what exactly is wrong, what parts we need, that would be helpful. Maybe.
Well, yeah, we would.
Because that's my figure was everything was wore out.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, you might as well, in 16 years, you might as well replace all the wearable parts.
Because the housing basically is probably the most expensive part anyway, though.
Yeah, it's a boat, it's a pontoon stainless steel thing that propels itself and goes nowhere.
Yeah.
And while we're at it, we might as well have somebody take a look at the ones that we've had since '04.
Yes, because right now it's very cheap to fix the
fix,
bearings
right.
and then let the shafts snap.
Any further, council? Public comment?
Anyone?
Close public comment?
Gotta be faster than that, Larry.
The main thing I'm talking about is what you brought up about the 3 bids. I asked the lawyer personally about this when she was sitting here about the 3 bids, because I says, PERC don't have to have 3 bids, and says your 3 bid deal will take care of it. $29,000, $30,000, you don't have to have a bid, give me a break. I think there's a law against that too, if I looked it up. And PERC gets 10% of this. That's $3,000 they get to make off this. Think about that. Oh, and another thing is the aerator. You're talking about that deep aerator. Have them turn the one on that's sitting in pond 1 and see what it pumps out of it. Just go down and sit and ask them to turn it on and see what pumps out of it.
I'll make a motion to table this item while we look at repairing the aerator.
A second.
We have a first and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
No opposed? Moving on to agenda item 6, Ad hoc Creek Committee interview panel.
Yes, Madam Mayor, Council. In talking with the mayor, we're going to be advertising for the Creek Committee members in March here, as the newsletter goes out. And the mayor requested another person to sit with her to review and interview potential Creek Committee members. So what's being asked tonight is somebody volunteer to be on the Creek Committee interview committee with the mayor. I'll do it.
And then you'll be advertising that in March, and
Yes, Janice, that goes out in the newsletter.
And they were submitting a letter of interest, I was assuming,
Correct.
with some background information.
Qualifications,
and- Well, don't make it too short, because,
Request a Fish and Wildlife person and give us lots of money inside.
okay.
You need to take
We need to
citizens'
take public-
comments,
Yes,
and then
no
you-
further council
a
discussion.
motion has to be made.
Okay, well,
Public
first,
comment.
public comment.
Right.
Any public comment?
So I would like to know what is the committee Creek, or Creek Committee, sorry. What is that?
It is a brand-new committee that we have established that is being put into place to be an advisory. If you have the agenda, all of their items are listed on the agenda.
Sorry, I can't see.
That's okay. They're going to act as an advisory body to the city council, making recommendations regarding the creek and other floodways. They're going to look at programs, proposals that may facilitate public awareness and public participation, public education regarding safe, responsible utilization of all creeks and waterways and floodways in Ione. Making recommendations for creek bank restoration, stabilization, water flow obstruction, bush abatement, creek bed cleanup, buildup, litter abatement, etc.
Okay.
They are also going to recommend political action in the city council on that's a good word. Habitats. Riparian habitats, sorry. Measuring water runoff and flows, and also recommending coordination with activities with other commissions, departments, or agencies, including Fish and Game, FEMA, Mule Creek State Prison, Planning Department, and the Fire Department.
Okay, thank you very much.
It's basically to maintain the creek so we don't flood.
Well, and it's a little bit more than that. It's also going to be some other of the flooding plains and stormwater, and how we're going to be dealing with that going forward. Any other public comment? Seeing none, closing public comment. I will entertain a motion.
I make a motion to appoint the mayor and vice mayor to the Creek Committee interview panel.
I'll say.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
No opposed? Motion carries. We have our city manager's report.
Yes, a number of things for you here. We have a HVAC unit at Edlin Bishop Hall that's out and needs to be replaced. We're getting bid estimates currently. We have a meeting scheduled with ARSA and the golf course to discuss the notice of violation and the 4 work plans that were required by the Regional Water Quality Board. That'll be on the next council meeting's agenda in terms of our discussion where that's going. I did have the opportunity to talk with Kenny Croyle a little bit just to get some clarification on their issues. Hazard mitigation meetings tomorrow and Thursday. I will not be able to attend the one tomorrow, but Ken Mackey will be sitting in for me, and I will be on the one on Thursday and talking to the organizer of this. It's more important that I'm there Thursday than I am Wednesday, so like I said, that works into my schedule well. You should probably you should have received an Excel sheet from me containing the list of contractors and agreements with the city. I hope that got to you. Okay. You should have also received the performance evaluation forms and the scope of work for de novo planning, Prentice Long, Coastland, in Eco-Urban. At the beginning of next week, I'll get the other ones out to you.
Did you send those today, John?
Yes,
Okay, I'm sorry.
yes.
I had already left.
And then I did talk to Loretta Tillery, reminding her that the city is still interested in purchasing the lot behind the pizza factory for the parking lot. And then she needs to get her easements recorded as soon as possible, so we can move forward as soon as possible.
I know she has moved forward on that. I talked to a friend of hers, said that I asked him if there was anything going on. He said, yes, she is looking at bids and stuff, trying to get the thing paid.
Like I said, I'm more concerned about the easements
Correct, But she is moving forward on it. She's interested in selling it still. At least that was secondhand, just the council.
Right, like I said, I had the opportunity to talk with her, and I know another staff person had the opportunity to talk with her Monday that, like I said, we want her to know that we're interested, but she needs to get the easements recorded.
Yeah, I think she's clear on that, hopefully.
Okay. Those are the things that I had.
Can I ask, what's the purpose of buying Loretta's parking spot? Because you know what's gonna happen as soon as we buy it, we'll lose about half the parking on it. And if the goal is to increase parking, I don't know how you're gonna do it. By the time you ADA it, make it all the easements, I bet you're gonna park 8 cars there. Right now you can park 20, just so you know. So buying a parking lot sometimes not a good thing. I wouldn't object at all to have her paving the thing, just pave it, have her stripe it and pay her a monthly lease or something. That's what Sutter Creek does with the post office. But if you think you're increasing parking, you're actually losing parking. That's something to keep in mind.
Part of our traffic plan too.
So I think that easement back there is probably 10 foot, I'm sure. And that'd be on the back side of the pizza factory. So,
Put it on a future agenda item, and
Yeah.
that would be the best way to handle that, to discuss this in more detail.
Yeah.
We want to get some parking for people so they can shut down town, so that's the primary goal. But let's put it on a future agenda item.
Further, city council committee reports?
Yeah, went to ACTC last week and had a couple of questions. There's a camera on 124, and I don't know where it is, so I look all the time, but everyone's complaining about it. It was, I believe, put there by Caltrans, but the Caltrans rep didn't know about it either, so I think it... Is it on the Shell station? I'm looking around when I'm driving, but I can't see it. But I know they're doing traffic studies on 124, so they're going to get back to me the next meeting. Also, I asked about the repaving Main Street because that was scheduled, I think, for 2020 or 2021, and they're going to get back to me with the exact date of when that was. There's also, park and ride funds. If you do a park and ride, or you're trying to help with greenhouse gases like a park and ride, then there's funds available, and they're starting to take, ACTC will be notifying the cities about bids, applying for grants for that. So that would be a good use of funding for what we were just talking about. And that's about it for me.
We had ACRA, the Inner Recreation Agency. We discussed a couple things. One there, I think it's in public that we're talking about purchasing a building for some long-term stability for the project. I did ask them the question, which was brought up at the last meeting. One of the last meetings I was at was about why it was not closed session, why it was an open session. We're discussing property. Basically, it was the director's prerogative that we want to have at least the public buy-in and interest being fully vetted so that they can comment on it, know to comment on it, that we are looking at buying a property. And once we move into negotiations, if we can secure funding, then we'll discuss that more in detail. The longer term solution, right now it's just an agency. It's not an actual, it falls in, it needs to fall in a different category. What the term of it is, I can't think of the term of it right now.
JPA?
It's a JPA now. It needs to be a way you can tax people to get money. What's that called?
Special district.
Special district. There we go. Thank you. All right. And I'm like, but the process for it to turn into a special district is a little bit more cumbersome and lengthy than we can get to right now. At some point, it probably will be a special district, which the difference is that you have the taxing authority. The problem we have right now is that we have all of the negatives with a JPA or an agency, and we have but we have none of the benefits you get with the short of the stick, no matter how you frame it. Because we're treated like a special district by the state from how we record everything, but we just don't have the benefits that we get from that. Not that we want to tax anybody, but anyway, complicated discussion. But right now, we're just trying to cobble together funding sources for it. We have some places to get some money, but not enough to really do it correctly. The other one is not, I wouldn't call it, I'm not really on it, it's not really a committee, but I don't know where to bring it up at. But if you haven't noticed, there's been some picking up and cleaning up in the town by the bridge primarily, and then along, I believe it's Fairway Drive. There's a group called the Ione Beautification Project. You can look them on Facebook, and they've actually been gathering a large number of volunteers. I say large, but maybe a dozen, but they cleaned up the rose garden back here, and they've got a list of projects, so I just put it out to public. I talked to John and Todd, our public works director, about it. They're interested in doing public beautification projects. If you know something that might fall that's simple but might be done in 2 or 3 hours, please you can forward it to me or forward it to them. And they're just looking to enhance the overall appearance of Ione. And I just want to kind of give more of a shout out to them, I guess. So that's what I have.
I had no meetings.
Did they have a Parks and Rec, John? I can't remember.
No.
No.
That was the
Oh.
first meeting of the month. We have Park and Rec coming up.
I have nothing to report. Except that I'm losing my marbles.
It happens to the best of us. I have nothing to report at this point. Public comment on the committee reports? Seeing none, I'll close public comment. And I will call for future agenda items from council.
I would like to bring up the Mill Creek contamination mitigation thing again. I don't know what we can do, which is why I haven't brought it up before. I feel like, other agencies have done what they can do, and Mill Creek has pretty much just snubbed their nose at them, and keep on doing what they're doing. But I'd like to at least bring it up again and maybe look at a cease and desist order, or I don't know. We'd have to check with council to see what is available there. But we keep getting excoriated by local journalists, and with, by the way, no recommendations as to what to do or what we could do. But so maybe, I guess what I'm looking for is just to investigate what we can do, what's available to us.
And as a part of that too, so I was at the prison meeting a while back, and they did agree to send down representatives to discuss the item with us and to let us in on what's going on. Again, I think the finer point of it is we don't have jurisdiction, but they have agreed to come down and discuss it with us, so hopefully they still honor that, so.
Did you get a date? Because I keep asking
No.
for a date and I never get one.
No,
And I keep
well-
asking the Regional Water Quality Board to come and I never get one.
Yeah, the problem they had was that the report that they had was preliminary, it wasn't the final, so they kind of deferred not to, they said they declined to speak to it until it's actually a report that comes out, and there is a report out, I don't know if it's preliminary, what it is.
That's 1,500 pages
Right.
of report.
That's why I asked them to come in and give us the highlights and tell us, what's going on and put the public at ease a little bit, but again, they're not in our jurisdiction, so we can just listen, that's about as much as we can do. We can complain.
The water is in our jurisdiction.
Yeah,
so
that's true, that's true,
It's
but.
regional water's jurisdiction too, so if we could have both regional water and Mill Creek here at the same time.
I'd love
That would be fantastic.
And that has been my request, but
Yes.
like I said, it falls silent and I get crickets. And wasn't there a third party, independent party from Southern California, some place that did a study on this as well?
It's some work
They
there.
did the testing, didn't they?
Yeah, they were doing the testing, if I recall. Okay.
Can we have them come?
I just,
How would that go?
I just think, I just feel helpless just sitting here, and if nothing else, I mean, can we write a letter to the governor, or can we pass a resolution to, shame somebody? I don't know, do something.
I recommend not fighting with regional.
Down at regional.
No, I don't want to fight with
But
regional.
anyway-
Told me that's how you do it. They told me, Stacy, what you do is you put a cease and desist on them. They're probably gonna ignore it, but at least you gave it to them, so.
Well, I know the
Which you need to
regional,
clear. That was right from regional told me to do that.
yeah, regional quality,
They did it,
They
but-
did a cease and desist order at one time.
After 6 months, they just quit it. and
We've got a
threw it
cease
away.
and desist order for 10,
Kept going.
14 years now.
Yeah.
Perhaps we need to invite some,
So for our agenda item.
public journalists from other areas to come.
Well, and so what we want to put on for the agenda is a discussion item, perhaps talking to city council
Yeah,
and
cease
the
and
attorney
desist.
about what we can
Sure.
or cannot do.
Sure, and as soon as I say that, obviously, time is of the essence, because things, pollution is ongoing.
Right.
I won't be here at the next meeting to discuss it, but you carry on without me.
You're awfully optimistic.
We will carry on.
I know your goal.
I will email my contact over there that I usually confer with and see if she can put a bug in somebody's ear. Maybe we get some motion.
Somebody will come down here and say something,
I think with a concerted effort, we might get some response.
okay?
Yeah, I just want to say on that item, that's a good idea. It's really unfair that we get criticized by the newspaper. I love the newspaper, and they've got to sell papers, but it's really not our jurisdiction. It's a jurisdiction of regional board, and second of all, it's a jurisdiction of Amber Health. So we've done everything we can do, but at least, if we have this as a topic, it'll show that we're not just sitting around doing nothing, and then people can understand what position we're in. We're it's like we cannot go to the city of San Francisco and tell them, what to do with their wastewater. That's not our jurisdiction. So we complain, we do what we can. I think it would be helpful maybe to, in the meantime, just write a letter to the newspaper, answer the editorial by saying that this is what the city of Ione's done. Do it nicely. Don't want to get into a fight with the guy that owns the newspaper, but so this is what we've done. We've requested this, we've requested that, we're gonna have another meeting on it at this date, but bottom line is, it's not our jurisdiction. Doesn't mean we don't care, but it limits us to what we can do. So just to address it.
Other agenda items I would request, I talked to Larry a while back, I mentioned a depot update. If we have a depot update from the city, maybe on the finances, and then any progress you guys have made, I can talk to you offline, Larry. We can kind of figure out what we got going. And then I was thinking about for our beautification project, it'd be nice to get a nice tick list. Again, we can refresh that. I'll do that with Larry and the gang, if that's okay with them. Or you can email it to me, it'd be even better. That would save us a whole meeting, that'd be great. And then the other thing is, I think we should probably agendize the parking lot, have a discussion on that. We might need a closed session portion of that, I don't know. We'll talk to our council about that, but have that on the agenda so we can have an open, full discussion. Thank you.
Okay. Stacy, do you have any? Okay.
Just the parking lot.
Got it. Okay, all right, got those, thank you. Public comment? I don't get to have public comment.
You don't get to have public.
I don't have to have public comment, sorry, Larry. I was asking.
They're not gonna say anything, because they're gonna say it's under investigation. I just let you know.
Probably true.
Exactly
That's
what
probably
they're
true.
That's probably true.
Can you have a public comment?
No, I can't. I cannot have public comment on
There's nothing.
the future agenda items. You can comment on the agenda item when it's actually on the agenda.
Parking's an issue. I think the parking on Main Street, if you want to get more parking spots available, you can possibly consider diagonal parking spots through the street. I know that's
Caltrans Street.
Caltrans.
That's not
it's
ours.
Caltrans Street. Well, I mean, I just thought it was kind of silly. It would open up a lot of parking, and it just seems like an easy thing. Maybe is that a proposition?
Feel free to call Caltrans and tell them that.
Well, that feels like as a city council's job. Would they be able to do that? Would you be able to propose something to?
We can ask,
We can ask.
but I don't think it's wide enough.
Yeah, that was a consideration, but you could always maybe engineer just the right angle.
You can
All
always,
right,
you can always.
we can have public comment on everything, so.
Yeah, it's understandable. I just
You can
seemed like a
join us at the next meeting when it's on the agenda.
There you go. Email District 10.
Okay. And we will now be going into a closed session. Yes, and it's a conference with legal counsel pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9 D and 1, existing litigation with City of Ione versus Ione Hotel. I will accept public comment on this issue now. Seeing no public comment, I will close public comment and we will adjourn to closed session.
Thank you for staying for the meeting.
Thanks, guys.
Yes,
Learned
thank you.
something.